Welcome back to Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and today is a review of The Embrace. Yes, the long-awaited review of The Embrace, a crowdfunded superhero comic book. I have been telling people I'm going to be doing a review of this book, and I have yet to get around to it. But there's a reason why. The reason why is that I have a lot to say about the book. So we're going to break it down. This is a review of the comic itself, not the crowdfund. The crowdfunded project is another video that I'm going to do. But I wanted to focus on the book itself with this review. So full disclosure, I am friendly with the creator of this book, Michael Oden. He's the writer. And then the artist is Dean James. And I guess I'm kind of friendly with Dean. He's from Australia. So I don't know, man. There's just some sketchy dudes over there. Yes, Dean. I love you anyway, man. The color is by Paul Billick, and Carver is an editor. I don't know if this is Carver's first name or Carver's last name, but Carver is the editor. So, real quick, the book is a story about Clarence, who is a widower and a single father, and one day they're out and they get run over by a car, or at least Clarence gets hit by a car. The car apparently is driven by gang members, and so the gang members decide that they're going to clean up their problem by killing David, the child, and that way there will be no witnesses to them running over this dude, except the fact that their plan falls apart when Clarence doesn't die. The book opens up with a bit of a flashback where Clarence is trying to tell his son to run, and then it cuts to the modern day or the present time, and they're at a police station, or Clarence is at a police station, and the police chief is saying, hey, look, it's been a year and we don't have any leads, so we're going to have to close this as an active case for right now. So Clarence is like, you can't do that. You're the cops. You need to fix this problem because my son's dead. Obviously, I mean, who else is going to fix anything about this? You guys got to do it. And so they're like, well, we don't have any leads, so we feel bad for you, but, we're not going to be able to do anything. So Clarence is like, oh, yeah, it's all right. It's no problem. Well, that's a bit of a red flag because clearly it's a big problem. And so Clarence proceeds to go to the place where David was killed or murdered, and there's a memorial there, and he decides that he's going to end it all right there. And just as he's about ready to do it, David shows up in a ghostly form and starts talking to him about saying, hey, Dad, you're not going to hurt yourself, are you? And Clarence is like, oh, man, no, it's all good. I'm not going to hurt myself, David. I totally don't look terrible. I totally don't look like, I'm in a bad mental state. So to make a long story short, David joins with Clarence to turn into a new superhero called The Embrace. And there's not really any explanation as to why David is showing up or how he was showing up. It's just that he shows up, and you have to go with it. Now, a lot of people might say, well, why is this happening? Or what's the explanation for this? You have to understand, this is a superhero comic book. So superhero comic books aren't meant to be logical, all right, guys? So you just go with it, right? You just go with it. With superhero comics, not everything is really explained until maybe further down the road in later issues. And I believe that will actually be explained if there are additional Embrace books, because I spoke to Oden about it. Back to the point, they turn into this superhero called The Embrace, and he's got these little hands here that are like these, elongated ghost hands that can grab things kind of like Spider-Man does with his webbing, and they swing around, they look for these murderers for David, and they track him down, and then they capture the guy who murdered David, and then they bring him to a police officer, and then the case is, solved at that point. And then there's another secondary story that happens after the thank you page, which actually I think is really great and does a fantastic job of setting up a new supervillain that is an equal match for the character of The Embrace. So it's a really good starting introductory book to a new superhero. And I think it's Oden's best book, right? So Oden is, he's got his Nine Realms publishing company, right? Imprint. So Oden has done, let's see, how many books he's done? He's done Elysian Fields, The Pyramid Gambit, and The Embrace. And he's also working on a book called SPQR, which I just did a live stream about. You can go check the replay of that, and you can click the link down at the bottom of this video. On that campaign, by the way, you can also pick up The Embrace. You can pick up these books for a really good price by going to that campaign if you are so inclined, and I recommend that you do it. That being said, The Embrace so far is Michael Oden's best book. Is it a perfect book? No, it is not a perfect book. This is a constructive criticism review. Before I get into that, I want to point out that with books like this, right, there are going to be mistakes, right? And the mistakes that I point out in this book, or the things that I have issues with in this book, are things that can be corrected going forward for new, better books. So that's the spirit by which I am approaching this. I hope nobody takes it personally. I know Michael will not take it personally. Dean, though, being one of those crazy savage Australians, he might take it personally. But with that being said, let's get into it. I'm going to show you a couple different pages on this that I have questions and thoughts about. So, and I'm also going to show you some things that I think are done very, very well. So, but if all you're looking for is whether the book is good or not, it's a good book. I would give this book an overall 3 out of 5 stars. I would give the story and the concept 4 out of 5 stars. It's a great superhero, crowdfunded, independent, new intellectual property, and is worth your support. It's definitely worth the $20 it would cost for this to be shipped to you. So you can buy it, I believe, for $10 now, and it's $20 for shipping in the United States. So there you go. Now, on to the things that I have thoughts about. So the first thing that I'm confused about is this page. There's a giant fly here. Apparently there's a fly. Now, I talked to Oden about this. I said, dude, why is there a fly here, right? Honestly, I'll tell you what, I'm recording this video right now. This is the first time I've seen this fly, this particular fly right here. You know why it's the first time I've seen this fly? Because this entire page is dominated by this fly. And the fly has nothing to do with the story, right? Nothing to do with it. Why on earth is it here? Oden will tell you that this is Dean James' idea, right? And Dean, to his credit, might come back and say, nah, man, this is Oden's issue. I don't really care. Whoever is responsible for this is a great fly. I've never found myself waking up and saying, you know what I want to do is I want to see a giant fly head. This whole section here is about, Captain Stone here, who's the police department chief, and Clarence here, who's our protagonist, or one of them. And he's talking to him about, the fact that they're going to have to close down this case and they don't have any leads. And so Oden says, well, Dean said that this was supposed to be just like a new perspective in the room. And I'm like, why? So why do we need this why do we need a new perspective? Okay, so we've got a third of the page right here, right? We could be doing 4 different panels. We could be doing like 2 different panels, any other thing other than a giant fly head where Captain Stone's, dialogue is going through his head. I don't, for the life of me, I do not understand this. So, gentlemen, for the next Embrace book or any other book that you do going forward, don't put something in here that has nothing to do with the story that just dominates a page, right? You have a finite amount of real estate to work with to tell an effective story, and you should make every single inch of that count to further the story, right? And this doesn't quite do it for me. I mean, it might do it for some people. Some people might go, damn, that's a great fly face. That's really this is my jam. This is not my jam, right? This is not my personal jam. So, that being said, back to, because this fly thing was so dominating, I skipped past the first thing that bugged me. Whisper balloons, right? Okay? These whisper balloons, I mean, I'm pretty sure that this camera cannot read this stuff. Let me see. Can the camera read this stuff here? No. The camera's not zoomed in, so I'm going to have to take a closer picture and I'm going to have to overlay it. So, ta-da, here you go, right? And now we have Michael Bancroft for some reason. Michael Bancroft has fallen a very, very great distance. Instead of being some kind of like amazing, awesome live streamer about comics from Australia, he apparently is a low-level deputy in an Alexandria police department, right? And he's doing whispers with these other people. And I can't freaking read this. I can barely read this stuff, right? I'm like, no. See, I can't read this. I can barely read this. And this is a pet peeve of mine. It's not just this book. I've seen DC books where they put like red text on gray background. And if you are familiar with color blindness, red and gray are the same color. People that have color blindness cannot distinguish the two. So when you put red text on gray background, you're stupid. So don't do it. And furthermore, when you put super faint gray text here on this balloon, it's so hard to read. Don't make it a chore to read, guys. Don't make this hard to read. We already got the book. We've already bought the book. Don't make it so that we have to what strain our eyes. Don't do that, right? Okay, so that's a major issue. That's the number 2 issue. The number 1 issue is The Fly, right? Here we go. Jeff Goldblum showing up for you, guest starring in The Embrace. So those are 2 of the things that bug me about the book. Now, there's a couple other things here. I'm not sure. By the way, this is a minor thing. Captain Stone. Well, Captain is an entire word. I'm not sure if we're trying to abbreviate Captain. I mean, that's a terrible abbreviation. That's the whole word, though. So Captain Stone. I'm not sure why there's Captain Stone. I do know that this is a reference to Luke Stone. Luke Stone is the guy who lettered the original Elysian Fields comic book, right? And apparently, this guy here, Captain Stone, is supposed to be Luke Stone. Clarence here is showing up in the office of the police department, and the police department are like, look, we can't do anything about this for the issues that you're facing, and it sucks here. But I don't really understand why why there's a period after Captain, right? It's a silly thing to pick at. It's a nitpicking thing. And by the way, I'm not going to get into the grammar and spelling on this book, right? I have gone after Oden about this plenty of times before, and I'm not going to do it again. I think he understands the point. And I just got done reading a Carnage book that has 2 typos in it. So if Marvel can't get their act together, I'm not going to really go after tiny little nitpicks with crowdfunded guys. At least not until it gets super egregious, like, when cutting off an entire word balloon or something like that. Now, I want to talk about the art in general on this book. So the line work. Let's start with the line work. Dean, this is his first comic book project. And it is a really great attempt at a first comic book, but the art clearly is a work in progress. So Dean is clearly learning as he's doing this, and there are some things that I think that he could do better. But here's the fun thing about this. This is actually pretty cool. Dean continually works on his art. So everything that I could complain about in this book is being weird, and I'm just gonna point out a couple things. He's actually already started correcting this stuff. So if you follow him on his Instagram, which I'm going to link under this video, you can see the current work that he's doing. Dean is one of these guys who just is like, it's starting to click with him. He is really picking it up. And a lot of artists, they take years and years and years to do that. But within a year and a half, Dean has gone from doing stuff like, this disembodied arm that's not coming from Captain Stone. I mean, look at that. I mean, is this how far his arm goes out, right? So like if we were going to his arm would have to be like this, right? To become that's just weird. Dean has actually fixed that stuff. He is so much better at his art these days. Now I can't complain about that without actually talking about what I believe is possibly the best work for Dean on this book, and that is this scene here. This is where Clarence is about ready to potentially end it all, and this is really solid work from Dean on this book. And from reaching back here to the 3 panels. The layout and everything is great. Unfortunately, I think the color fails this book. So let's talk about the color. This is actually, Paul Billick, bless his heart, he is in the Ukraine, or he is Ukrainian. So, I hope everything's going right for this guy. I hope he's all right. I hope things are working out. I hope he's out of there. So definitely prayers for that guy. But, as far as his work on this book is concerned, this is a book about a dark subject matter, right? But that doesn't mean that the entire book needs to be totally invisible. So, and what I mean by that is a lot of the art here that Dean worked on is obscured by color choices that I think are suboptimal, right? What you want is to get a color palette that's dark, but is not so dark that it makes it impossible to see line work, or that it detracts from the art, because it's a visual medium, right? I hate movies where they don't light it well enough and you can't see anything on the screen. It's like I think that's the number one irritation I have in films these days, when they shoot things digitally in like somebody's closet, basically. And I mean, there's like barely little bits of light coming from somewhere, but you cannot see what's going on. It drives me up a wall. So right here, right? Okay, so this whole page, There's a lot of detail here that you can't see because of the fact that there's just so much black. It's like we're gonna do gradients and we're gonna paint bucket this stuff, right? So like right here, right? What this is a car, and these are tires, and we've got light coming from the headlights here, and it's kind of coming around the memorial. But you know, it's hard to see where there's other light sources. There's clearly other light sources. There are street lights out here, right? There's street lights out here, right? Or there's some kind of lighting source. So why don't we see things like, you know, the inside of the tires here and maybe some tire tread, you know, and some more detail out here. So I don't know if Dean actually even drew anything in here. We'll never know because it's just completely black. And, you know, there's no reason for that. This whole page is just like drowning in black, right? So you got bright black. You know, everything is just, it's so hard and it really takes away. So let's just, I mean, this page right here on the other side, you can see a lot more here. You can see like, you know, the liquid inside of the bottle. You can see there's a little bit of a coloring effect here done for the paper bag. But I am sure that there's a lot more line detail in these roses here than what we can actually see. And it's just so dreary. You don't need to make it so dreary that it's like almost ugly to look at. You just need to, you know, find cool colors to work with. And what I mean by cool, I don't mean like, oh, that's cool. I mean, as opposed to warm colors, right? Just find some cool colors that you can accentuate some things with and maybe do like, you know, a bit of a tint on it, but you don't need to just puke black all over everything. And that's a real problem with this book. And I don't know, I'm not familiar with Paul's coloring work on other books. I've never seen any of his other stuff, but you know, if he has other stuff, then I think that that's something that hopefully he can, you know, move away from when you're doing a book that's obviously about kind of, I'm not going to call The Embrace an anti-hero, but he's definitely a tragic hero. So I would definitely want to, you know, try to move away from like just making things just black all the time, because that's a real problem. Now, the other problem that I have with this book is that it's a bit of an uneven book, narratively speaking. And I talked with Oden about this, and I said, you know, look, you have this scene where David is killed and Clarence is run over, and it happens like pretty much at the end of the book, which it's a bit of a dream sequence that goes on there, like the lead up to it. And so I think you probably should have lit up with this, and I still think that probably would have been a better way to start this off. But you know, I'm not writing the book; it's not my book, so that's just something I think could have flowed better. Now, at the end of the book, there is a super villain that is introduced. I will tell you this, it's probably the best introduction to a super villain in an independent comic book that I've seen in a very, very, very long time. So it's not done like, say, it's I've seen other books where they do introduce super villains very effectively, but this one is a really this one's a really great introduction. So and unfortunately, it's at the expense of Michael Bancroft. Back to the coloring, you know, again, there's a lot more. I mean, basically what we got here is we've got gradients. Gradients are everywhere. And you don't really want to put gradients everywhere because you're wiping out the texture. Everything looks smooth. It's hard to feel like this is a real room. And it's colored in such a way that is, I think, way too soft for what it needs to be. This is a hard world, right? This is a hard world about a sad story. And you want things to be gritty and grimy, and you don't want things to be smooth and full of beiges and blacks. So, you know, get some different textures up in here. You know, make sure that we have more lights going on, maybe some yellow lighting, not just like one light source at the top here. And I know we're trying to get shadowing here, but you can shadow this and still see detail here. So, you know, I don't know if Dean didn't actually draw anything here, but if we're going to go this hard in a shadow here, we need to go hard like this on other things. Like this needs to be all black in here as well. And this needs to be more black. And we need to, I mean, it's just, there's just not consistency in the visual look of the book. And I think that is a big problem. Also, Daddy, get up here, please. This font is Bada Boom, and you know, it's by Blambot. I'm not entirely certain that this is the best font to be using for this sequence here. I think you might want to use something that looked a little bit scarier or something more terrifying. Bada Boom is kind of a typical come to the rescue superhero font, you know, and it's just not, I think, the best choice there. Like I said, Dean is getting better. This fist here is you know, he's clearly connected to Clarence here, but I think a better choice would have been a closer look at Clarence's face and less of a focus on the slam, or maybe even like, you know, a a fly's eye view from the perspective of the fly, not like close up on the fly's face, but more like a camera angle from up on the ceiling. Might have been a better thing that showed the hopelessness. See, what I would have done with Clarence here is that I would have made a big table, right? And then I would have put Clarence on the table and nothing else on the table, so it looked like Clarence was alone. That's what I would have done, because that's what Clarence feels here. Clarence feels alone, and he feels betrayed, and he feels hopeless in this panel. So I would have done maybe like a panel that went all the way across here, and like a big table, and Stone is sitting over here, and then Clarence is over here, and he pounds the table, and his other hand is on the table, and his head's like bowed down, and he feels like he's at the end of his rope. That's what I would have done. But, you know, again, that's just a choice that Dean makes here, and that's fine. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. But when you're trying to go for, when you're swinging for the fences, sometimes you strike out, and I think Dean did a little bit of a strikeout. I admire what he's trying to go for here. It's very, very technically complicated to make this work, and it just kind of falls just a little short. But again, like I said, you need to check out Dean's Instagram, because the art here that he's doing, he will tell you that his art here is not the best. And he will tell you that he has better work that he's working on. And as a matter of fact, I know that they are working on a remaster on this book. So Dean is going to come in and he's going to redo all the art. And let me tell you what, I bet it's going to be killer. Dean is a really great upcoming artist, and he's really working hard at his stuff. So I think that, you know, he's definitely an artist to keep an eye on going forward. But ultimately, that's pretty much all I really have to say about the book in general. This book came nicked here on the side, which, you know, I mean, when you got a high gloss book, right? I mean, and it came out of a box like this. This is definitely a problem. And I'll talk about that in the crowdfunding aspect of the review of this project. But enough of that. The book altogether is a great book. It's definitely a work in progress. It could be better. Overall, the book is a 3 out of 5. It's a unique superhero crowdfund book, like I said. The art is not quite there. I'd give the art a C on this book, and maybe a C+. I'd give the art a C+. It's not bad, but it's definitely, it could definitely be better. The coloring is definitely a C-. The coloring detracts from the art in the book, and that's a problem that I have. I hope Paul's okay from where he is, because again, like I said, he's Ukrainian. I hope he's safe someplace, and I hope he can improve upon the art or the coloring that he's been doing for this book. And, you know, again, like I said, this is Oden's best story so far, in my opinion, and I look forward to the follow-up for it. Again, if you want to buy this book, you can certainly do so. SPQR and the Pyramid Gambit Remaster campaign is live right now. You can buy this as a perk individually, or you can buy it along with the other books as well, like SPQR and the Pyramid Gambit Remaster. It's definitely worth checking out. I think it's worth your money. This has been a review of The Embrace. So thanks for watching Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and I'll catch you next time.